you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the earliest things that makes official. Welcome to Monday morning on the Chris Voss Show. Of course, if you're watching this 5 to 10 years from now, it might not be Monday, but it'll be a day, assuming the world's still spinning. Welcome to the show, my good friends. For 16 years, 3,000 episodes, we're bringing the longest running podcast in existence that still does podcasts every day. So stick with us in August. I think we're going to hit the big 17. Anyway, guys, go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and wherever the hell else we are on the internet.
Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind.
Today we have an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking about her book from Wiley Books, if you're familiar with their business books. Her book is entitled Effective: How to Do Great Work in a Fast-Changing World by Melissa Swift. We're going to be talking to her on the show about her insights and all that good stuff. Melissa is a leading voice in how organizations, teams, and individuals can succeed in an ever more challenging world of work. As founder and CEO of Anthrome Insight, did I pronounce that right, Melissa? Anthrome Insight. I learn new stuff every day. She is a consultant and keynote speaker, helping organizations make their people successful in a chaotic times. Are these chaotic times? Yeah, I can't feel my legs. She's held leadership roles at several organizations. She's author of the aforementioned book and a previous book called Work Here Now, Think Like a Human, and Build a Powerhouse Workplace, out in 2023. Boy, I could give that book to some people, because I find people who clearly aren't operating like a human or using their frontal lobe or their brain. Joke. Anyway, guys, Melissa, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, so at www.anthromeinsight.com, that's ANTHROME, and then the word insight.com. And of course, you can find me, Melissa Swift, on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. I'm getting a bit active on Instagram at MESwift1 and Effective, and also a tiny bit on TikTok as well. Growing the reach.
Yeah, that TikTok is getting popular with the kids there, eh? Really hot right now. So Effective. You want me to start working? I'm just slumming it over at work doing that. What do they call that thing where you just show up at work, you don't really do anything?
The quiet quitting.
The quiet quitting. I'm just showing up, phoning it in. Tell us about all this work I need to start doing.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Effective came out of actually the question that people started asking me after my first book, after Work Here Now. People were kind of like, okay, Melissa, you got some great solutions here for organizations and teams, and you've characterized this problem, this issue of work right now is just really gruesome and hard to do, and we're stuck in meetings all the time, there's too many emails, and everyone misunderstands each other, all this garbage, right? We're like wading through garbage, right? You got it, you characterized it. Okay, but what can I personally do? People kept asking me that, and I'm like, that's a good question. I am asking myself this question, right? That's the fun thing about being a consultant on work, is we all do it, right? I'm not like I'm standing over here on the sidelines. I'm in the thick of the game myself. So Effective was my answer to that question. What makes us effective? What actually makes us good at our jobs? I thought that was a really fundamental question that I didn't see a lot of great answers to. And then what are the forces we're fighting against? What are the things that we actually have to combat? And what are the strategies we use to combat that stuff?
And so what are some strategies that you found to become more effective there in the workplace?
Well, first of all, I think you have to actually know what you're good at.
What?
And that, I know, it's one of those simple but not easy things. famously, people are actually bad at this. People are actually bad at evaluating what they're good at. So what I recommend in the book is there are 4 simple things you might be good at, and you need to look at how people are reacting to you and working with you, right? Other people are going to give you the answer. So for instance, if you're good at, one of the categories is knowledge. If you're good at knowledge, if people have been treating you like, started off treating you like the library, then treated you like Google, now they treat you like Claude, right? If people are asking you for answers to knowledge questions all the time, knowledge might be what you're good at. If you're the person who's called in to solve weird operational problems, like every time something's on fire, you're the person that gets called in, you're probably good at methods, right? You're a strong operator.
Yeah.
You have people crying in your office, you're probably good with people, right? You've created a safe space.
Yeah.
If people treat you like the IT department, even though you're not the IT department, then you're probably good with technology. 4 kind of simple things, but once you start to understand where your center of gravity is, that's really step 1. I'm very much a fan of strengths-based management. I don't think it's like, okay, Melissa, here are all your problems, go fix them. It's more like, what are you good at? And just go double down on that. Like, let's not mess around with flagellating ourselves for all the things we might not be amazing at.
Yeah. And so focus on what you're good at. There are a lot of people that sometimes are misplaced in the job positions. We used to try and move top salespeople into sales management positions. And boy, that would always fail epically because they're 2 different sort of mindsets. And
absolutely. Absolutely. And I actually have a whole chapter on, are you in a situation where you might not be able to be effective? Because if you're that salesperson sitting in that wrong job, right, where you were like this amazing producer and now you're the boss of all the salespeople and you hate it and it's not going well. Again, there's a stop the madness point of, okay, it's not you, it's and a lot of these roles are just broken too. I think that's a kind of a classic thing. We've all been in a job, right? I'm sure you had one at one point in your career where you're like, this job is broken. Right? There's something wrong with this job. And you have to have the acuity to say, okay, I'm in a broken job. I can continue improving myself till the cows come home, but it's not going to fix the job.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, if it's just a broken function and not working. Now, who's the book targeted towards? Is it targeted to CEOs, managers, people oversee other people? Who's it targeted to? A lot of CEOs design the workforce and workplace. Maybe HR does a little bit. But who's the core readers of this book that you want to have a look at it?
Well, I wanted to create something that would have actionable insights for people at a lot of different levels. At the end of each chapter, I've actually got things that everyone can do. Here's strategies everyone can do. Here's strategies you can do if you lead a team. And then here's strategies you can do if you're actually a leader within the organization, right? If you're the big boss.
The big guy.
As I put it. Yeah. Because I think that's important. One of the interesting things, I did a piece of research last year on something called work intensification, which is basically like where work has become too much. We've all experienced it. Again, it's a very real phenomenon. And one of the interesting things that came out of that was that the C-suite, the most senior people in companies, just like the rest of us, are kind of overloaded with just tasks. They literally just have too many pieces of work to do. It's not like a strategic thing. It's not a complexity thing. They just have too much work. And that really clicked on a light switch for me. And I said, okay, we need ground level insights that everybody had, because you can be a CFO, you can be a CEO, and you still have some of these just basic problems with work that a frontline worker would have. And that's fascinating to me.
Yeah. And so trying to be more effective, we were talking about this somebody recently. I think I was just talking about with a group of people. I'm always yipper-yippening somewhere. And it was about how much work we really do. I think it was a podcast of a guest we had recently. And I was talking about how I quit working on Fridays. And I switched my schedule to where I work really hard, 8-10 hours a day. Entrepreneur, it's 24/7 really when it comes down to it. You dream business. It's really annoying. And so basically I'm technically always on. I'm always answering emails or dealing with issues. But I basically made it to where we do 3 shows a day with the show on Monday through Thursday. And then I get a 3-day weekend. And I took Fridays off. And I am more productive with that schedule than I was at 5 days, and I was burning out hard. It would be like Sunday before the time I was feeling the weekend and I'd unwound enough, right? And then you're like, oh, I got to ramp up and do it again. I can't even marinate in the weekend. You just crash into Saturday. And so I found I was more effective at working less hours. A lot of companies some countries are saying, hey, you can't contact people after hours. And one of the big complaints I've had from all my friends since COVID started is, especially during COVID, we're doing like 12 to 20 Zoom calls a day. And we can't even get work done. It's just endless Zoom meetings, and we're just burning out like it's nobody's going out of style. You addressing some of these issues where people are way overloaded, and management needs to look at it and go, yeah, we need to quit pushing it. Maybe, I don't know.
I think what you're saying is very powerful. Similarly, I configure actually my Fridays such that I'll do work on Fridays, but in general, I'm very minimal on Friday meetings for exactly that reason of I want the brain kind of outro. And I find that I sometimes have really good work insights during that quiet time, because you use the word marinate. That really resonates for me, because your brain needs to kind of soak stuff in, and you can't be on these back-to-back-to-back calls. You can't just be constantly pinging back and forth on email and actually do some of the brain work that makes us actually good at our jobs. And we've prioritized remarkably so much since COVID. But I think the trend was kind of creeping up on us for a while, activity over the actual outputs of work. The great opportunity that you and I have as entrepreneurs is to say, okay, I'm going to actually prioritize outputs, and I'm going to configure a working schedule that enables me to get done what I need to get done and is less focused on kind of this day-to-day march through a bunch of not very helpful meetings and responding to emails that are very procedural, et cetera, et cetera. And that's, it shows it can be done in kind of these limited moments. And then what I'm trying to do in the book is to show, okay, within a bigger corporate environment, what can you do? So for example, one of the things that really burns people out is when work creeps into kind of what you need is family time, like dinner time on the weekday. You need to family needs to sit down for dinner. If you've got a standing meeting that always goes kablooey, and again, we've all had that meeting, right? Every week, this meeting is like a complete zoo. So don't schedule it at the end of the day on Thursday or something. Don't have that meeting at 5 o'clock on Thursday. Don't have that meeting at 4:30 on Thursday. Put that meeting at 10 a.m. on Monday. So even if the meeting goes kablooey, you got all this time and space through the week, through the day, whatever it is, to just absorb the fallout of the meeting. And it's sad that we have to do things like this. Many people would say, Melissa, why don't you say run a better meeting? Absolutely saying run a better meeting, but you don't always have perfect control. And what you might have control over is saying, why don't we align better with everyone's calendars to do this meeting at 10 a.m. on Monday? That might be what you have control over. And again, just try to minimize some of that fallout into time that you need to just refresh and be a human being and be with your family and stuff.
Yeah. And that's really important today. Millennials were the people who kind of started this whole, I want something more than just the job. I want something that means something. I want something that makes a difference and stuff like that. And it's a thing where they want something more. And I think Gen Z is taking it to the next level. They want jobs that mean something in life, that go someplace, all that stuff. So yeah, it's something that's really important to people, but we're seeing a lot of burnout now. We're seeing a lot of layoffs that are going on. And I saw one thing that was interesting to me where what some of the tech companies are trying to do is they're trying to make AI operators, because that's how they kind of think about their new sort of employees, AI operators or AI agents or whatever, that can do everything. And I was like looking at it going, that seems like a hell of a lot of work for one person and a knowledge base they would have to have. Yeah, if you know how to do AI, but like I might know how to do marketing, but I don't know how to do HR. I don't know how to do other functions I don't know how to be a secretary. Never been a secretary, I don't think. I don't know. When you're the CEO, you're the janitor and the secretary and everything else. But so I don't know. It seems like almost they're just making workloads harder for people and doubling it up and seeing how much they can push. It almost seems like they're just seeing how much they can push to overload employees and not have as many employees as much as they can. I don't know. That's my impression.
I heartily agree with you. And the interesting thing is there's historical precedent. People are always like, AI, it's unprecedented. No, it's totally precedented. We've been through multiple industrial revolutions, da 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 da. And I always compare this period in history to the early industrial revolution, when it was just really a crummy time to be a worker. That factories would spontaneously catch on fire because there was like sawdust all over the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Machines were just like cutting people's limbs off left. It was just gory and terrible. Really, if you want to not get a good night's sleep, read about the early industrial revolution.
Oh.
And I think we're in an era like that again, to be honest. And just because it's not physical harm, we're not talking about it the same way. But to exactly your point, all of this messaging about let's cull down to a tiny number of human workers and give them technology that is honestly, in some regards, I'm so sorry to say this, not ready for prime time.
Yeah.
Until things like I've seen some very interesting technical arguments saying that, for instance, Gen AI might always hallucinate. We might not be able to fix the problem of it lying to us. And I always say, if this was an intern, at a certain point, you would fire them. You would literally fire your intern. If they lied to you 5 times in one day, you'd be like, Jimmy, it's not working out.
Yeah.
And so this confluence of factors of technology that's not quite right and an incredible amount of pressure on humans, again, it's like 1810 or something all over again. And those also coincided with, by the way, there's some interesting research out of MIT. Human working hours have gone like this over human history. It's so interesting. They don't stay high and they don't stay low. Researchers have found they just fluctuate. And the early industrial revolution was also a period of like psychotically high working hours too. Oh, what does this sound like? It's very analogous to current conditions. And what happened during that time was finally, and this took a very long time, we had public-private consensus that it all needed to get reined in. We need safety standards in factories, and people owning the companies were like, yeah, it's actually good if half my workers don't get killed all the time. That would be a good thing to have happen. And then we get this massive, in the middle of the 20th century, like, burst of productivity because we got humans and technology into alignment, and we got it all working together in the right way. And that's what I'm hopeful for. I think it can be done. I think we have a good case study on it happening, but it took some doing.
Yeah, the interesting thing with the AI is it's developing so fast, laying off these people, and they want to, like I said, they want to stack up a bunch of work and try and make employees like an all-in-one. Because with AI, you can have different agents, so technically you're like a manager over a team, I suppose, in their thinking. I guess, I don't know. And but the challenge is that they don't have enough. Now the problem is they don't have enough tokens for everybody, or it's so costly to give everyone tokens for AI usage that they're having to what's the right word? They're having to scavenge or parse those things out in very small amounts because it's so costly to use the tokens. And so they're having to give allotments and a scarcity. And so I'm sitting there going, wait. Okay, so you guys are trying to make all-in-one employees that sounds like that can make a bunch of agents to do the job. So they're basically like, you're basically paying one person to be a team in your corporate. But then there's not enough tokens for them to do their job.
Yeah, it's bananas. You know what it is? We have these myths about human workers. We're like, humans are like this, technology is like this. So humans are expensive and technology is cheap. Absolutely not. You're seeing the economics go totally upside down. There's also humans are hard to manage and technology is easy to manage. So totally false, especially when you get into agentic AI, right? Which has huge promise. I'm not against any of these. I think these technologies are wonderful, but we've implemented them in a cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs way.
Cocoa Puffs.
Remember those ads? Sorry, there's a very Gen X reference there.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of generations, but yeah, it's bananas to say you have these instances. Oops, the agent deleted the whole organization's data. There was one of those recently.
I think so. Yeah, I think I saw that news.
Yeah,
they're like the new guy showed up and went, "How come where's this database? Did I actually do that?"
Yeah.
I think I saw the jokes on LinkedIn for that.
It's hilarious because honestly, technology is built by humans, so it's got all the same pluses and minuses as humans, right? That it can be great, it can screw up, it can be super cost effective used properly, it can be completely cost ineffective. And I think it's where we got to just do some myth busting and say, okay, if this is the actual work, just what combination of folks gets it done better? And also call in, I think some of people's sillier tendencies are starting to come out. So for instance, I heard a story recently about somebody putting their AI agents literally on the company's org chart, putting them into, like, when you go into Teams, you can see who reports to that person. They're like, these are all my agents. And come on, guys. This is the silly empire building stuff that anyone who's ever done org structure work is like, oh, not this again. And it's not futuristic to put all the agents on the org chart. It's just the same silliness as always. Look at my empire. We gotta rein it back in.
Yeah. What more do you propose that people do with this data? Do they need to org charts or demands of jobs? And are we really overloading these people? Are they? How do you measure overload? Maybe is a good question.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic question, and I've worked with a lot of organizations who are deep in the thick of exactly that question, because there are different ways to look at it. You can look at things like, is a person, their tells, like in poker, they always scratch their ear when they're bluffing, whatever. So you get tells. This person hasn't taken any vacation and it's October. That's weird. They've missed all their required trainings. A lot of times that's a tell because they're just so overloaded. You can look at mechanics, how full, what percentage of their calendar is ever open. I do a scary exercise with groups of leaders where I say, how many of you have 1 hour open in your calendar for the next week? And maybe a few hands will go up out of rooms of hundreds of people because nobody has a single minute free in the upcoming week. And again, it's a recipe for disaster because the second something happens that's unexpected, you're scrambling. And you're doing all your work in the evenings, which again, not great either. You can look at behavioral tells when people start to behave in ways where they seem super emotional all the time, or they're very shut down. It can go one of two ways. They can get super emotional or they can get super impassive. You see either one. It just depends on the individual person's wiring. You can look, there's a lot of conflict in the workplace. Very often that is just a bunch of overloaded people. So it's not one thing, but I think there's a list of probably 20 things that if you're just scanning for those things all the time, then you start to see some overload. And the goal is to get at it before you see the real tell, which is just a degradation of your business results. Like eventually your business just falls apart, but you want to catch it here and not catch it at the point of, oh my gosh, why is this quarter, down so much? That's almost too late.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got to, there's so many people that overloaded burnout. And I think that's why they came up with that quiet quitting. It's because people are just like, this is too much, man. And one of the things that I have to have is I'm a visionary CEO. I have always been that way. I don't do rudimentary work very well. On me doing accounting or anything that's rudimentary or simple. There are people, like I used to have a vice president. He was good at that stuff. And so he would do that stuff and I would do the visionary work and build models and successful marketing and all that stuff. I was the marketer too. And I have to have downtime as a CEO to be a visionary. I have to have downtime to think, okay, what creatively do we need to do with the business? I need to be able to analyze the business and I need to have that space. And if I don't have that space, we just become a machine that just goes round and round until the market changes or something changes. You're like, why aren't we making money anymore? Oh, there's a section bleeding out now that doesn't work anymore with the model that it's given. And you're like, okay, we got to go analyze it and fix it. And so, you've got to have time to stop the car and check all the fluids and make sure the tires are fully inflated and all that stuff. And then maybe look at the car and go, do we need to add some things to this thing, or do we need a whole new car? Maybe, I don't know. But that's the work of visionary. And if I don't have that downtime, like basically Friday, I'll answer emails, look for emergencies from our clients. But other than that, I pretty much piddle about the office. I'm not meeting anybody on Fridays and not talking to anybody really other than email response or text. And usually those are just emergencies. And it gives me time to just sit in my office and not really think about anything and maybe think about little projects or stuff I need to do, work on there's probably 500 things that I need to do every day as a CEO. I think every CEO has that problem. And if we get 5 of them done a day, we're lucky. And you just go to bed at night thinking, those 495 things I didn't get done today. I got 5 done. It's a big challenge. Let's talk about your business there, your company, what you guys do and how you help people with becoming effective.
Yeah, so Anthrome Insight, we're really just laser focused on this question of how do you, number one, find your sources of power. When I say your, it could be anything from an individual, a team, a chunk of an organization. And then how do you hold at bay those forces that are sapping those sources of power? So that might be, let's say, a keynote speech on chaos. That might be a workshop on finding a team's sources of effectiveness, or that might be a data-driven project on well-being at work and how can you re-engineer ways of working to really drive well-being. But that's always the lens, is how do we find our sources of power and how do we cut back on the things sapping them? And there's different, we can coach executives, we can do work at a whole organization level and everything in between.
And so how long have you guys been doing this? Tell us about the company. How did it start? What was the thing that made you go, hey, we should do this?
I got to do this. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm a veteran of a lot of these leadership roles in corporate consulting. And there's so much that's rewarding and great about those roles. I don't want to say, oh, those roles are terrible. No, there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of great learning. You get to work with wonderful clients, and particularly working with these wonderful big teams. That stuff is fabulous. Love it. But for me, a lot of people go through their whole consulting career and they make good use of the IP that the consulting firm gives them. Oh, this is our approach to leadership. Okay, let me go sell and deliver that. For me, I've always been someone who makes things, right? I'm like back in the kitchen, cooking stuff up, developing methodologies. How do we look at this? Research, writing, I'm building intellectual property. And so if you're like me, then entrepreneurial space eventually ends up making a lot of sense, because you're never going to get the full execution of your vision within corporate space, because there's always 20 other things going on that you need to conform to. And you're also never going to fully get sort of the value of what you created won't fully come back to you. At the beginning of last year, I said, all right, this is it. I am off to do my own thing. And I really want to help clients in the way that I know I can. I think that was the other piece, is I never felt like I was fully able to help clients up to the 100% level. And so I said, let me go do this. And I spent, to your point about thinking time, I spent a lot of time last year really working on this book, really working on Effective, because I understood that building out what's in the book is going to so much inform how I can help clients. And now it's this sort of wonderful glide path of I've spent all this time really researching and hammering these concepts out, and bringing them into the world for organizations is unbelievably satisfying and cool.
Yeah. And you guys do that, help people. Who does your client look like? Do they need to have a minimum sort of maybe revenue, a minimum size company, large, medium, small, net worth, anything like that? How do they qualify for you?
I'd say our offerings are designed to be pretty, if you're a smaller company and you just want a focused piece of work, because again, so much time was spent structuring how this is all done, it's very easy to say, okay, we're just going to grab this chunk on work intensification, and that's a one-day workshop, and you're great. I've done a lot of work at very large, very complex organizations, and I'm comfortable in that space as well. But I think the offering kind of nicely accordions up or down for a variety of company sizes and shapes. And I've always worked cross-industry, and I think that's part of what I've really enjoyed, to be honest, is that industry silos are still so pronounced that there's a lot of virtue in saying, this is how tech companies look at this question. This is how manufacturing companies look at this question. And, oh, okay, that's interesting. They really look at this differently, and that brings new insight. So very flexible across the spectrum of industry work.
And how can I see a talk to us button on your website? How can people reach out to you, find out more, see if you both want to work with each other and are compatible, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so the Talk to Us button is great. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I always appreciate a ping there. You can find me, as I said, on Instagram and TikTok. All of these things, drop me an email. I'm super communicative and always happy to engage.
Melissa, it's been wonderful to have you on the show and very insightful. I think you have a prior book. Do we want to do any plugging on that?
Yeah, so that's called Work Here Now, Think Like a Human and Build a Powerhouse Workplace. And there's a lot of really interesting strategies there at organizational level for how to fix some of these glitches. So encourage folks to check out both books.
Can I use that on my significant others of how to fix the glitches?
If only it was that easy.
That's why we just bury him in the backyard. No, don't do that, folks. That's illegal. That's bad. That's just a joke. Don't write me. And don't check my backyard. I got to write that joke down. That was a nice setup. I didn't even think about it. So, Melissa, it's been wonderful to have you on, and great stuff there. And yeah, we do need to have more of a discussion of work and effect. In fact, this thing we talked about in the previous show was one of the things we learned. We've been on LinkedIn since almost the beginning, marketing over there. And one thing we've learned over all the years we've been on there, like 16 years or something. I don't know how long they've been around, but I think 2009 or 6 or 3 or somewhere around there, LinkedIn started, and we were on it pretty early on. One thing we noticed was you have these marketing mails that you can do like once a week to your big groups. We have a 135,000 group over there on LinkedIn, and you can do like one email push that goes out to everybody in the group if they allow it. And so we started testing what the best days were to get the best open rate. And these are usually people at their offices that are checking their emails, because we notice no one opens emails on weekends, right? For the most part. And then we would send them on Monday, but we noticed we wouldn't get a lot of response on Monday. And it's because people were so busy. They come back into work. They got all the fires on the email from the weekend. They're putting all the fires. They're doing the work. On Tuesday, that was the day that we got the best hit, where they would open our emails from LinkedIn and about business, and they would be responsive. So they came in on Monday, they did all this work, they did all this stuff, they weren't goofing off. And then on Tuesday, they're a little bit more, okay, what do we need to do now? And they're open to input. And then we noticed as the week went on, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, it got weaker on our response and open times. And then on Friday, we couldn't get anybody to open anything. So
they were done. Whether
or not people are working on Friday or not, they got the mindset that they're just. I used to joke about how at 5 o'clock, 4:50, my employees would be in that runner sprint position, ready to leap off and get out the door at 5 o'clock. Just found they're just. I don't know what they're doing. We did notice that they watch a lot of our YouTubes on Friday. Our YouTube videos. Yeah. We were like, okay, so we know what they're doing. They're either watching, I don't know, OnlyFans or YouTube on Friday.
One of the two.
We've heard of that too, people doing that on the job, and it doesn't work out well when you get caught by HR. But so we noticed this pattern, and like Tuesday was the key day. And so people are still working on Tuesdays, but after, they're just kind of fading through the week, if you think about what it presented. And like I say again, there's so many countries that have invoked the 4-day work week. You can't email your employees after business hours, right? I think France or some European people. I think people should do that. There are times where with my staff and people I associate with, sometimes I want to send them something, and it's just a share an item or something, but I'm like, don't be an asshole, Chris. It's 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock. Let them have dinner with their family. Let them do whatever the hell they're doing there at home, and just leave them alone. And you can schedule your email to go out at 6 a.m. the next morning or 7 a.m. if you want. Let people have some breathing space, some reset time. Maybe that's the next book you should do. How to give employees the ability to reset.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. There's certainly at least one book to be written on that.
Yeah. How do we know when we're overloading employees and we need to reset them? Because people got to care more. We're kind of reaching this point where we're just really stringing employees out, I think, especially with AI. We're expecting them to do everything. And can you imagine being an employee at, I don't know, Microsoft or whatever, and they're like, you can only use X amount of tokens. And you're like, I need 3 times that amount to do my job. What the hell? You're stringing me out on where I got to do all these work for all these people you laid off. And then I don't have enough resources to do my job. And I just saw that. I just went, this isn't going to end well at all. Like,
no, it is a weird moment.
Yeah. I forget the gentleman's name. He's the one billionaire that seems to be sane. Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
He was talking about how he thinks that there's so much of a gold rush. We saw this with the .com in the 90s, early 2000s, the .com bust. These people, there's so many data centers they're trying to build now. You're just like, I don't know, man. This seems like a lot. I don't know anything about all this stuff, but this sure seems like a lot. And he was joking, I think, over the weekend that that what we're basically going to have is these empty freaking, when it goes bust, we're going to have these empty centers that are just going to maybe, I don't know, turn into malls, or I don't know. Who's that one Halloween group that always haunts any empty
Halloween Adventure or whatever. Yeah.
Remember that Halloween Spirit Halloween? Maybe I'm thinking of Spirit Airlines.
Spirit Halloween. Yeah, I can picture it very vividly. Yeah.
They're always in that dead mall that no one wants to rent in. And so that's probably what they're going to do. They're just going to take over all the data centers that go bust.
I mean, I have to say, for those of us who lived through the dot-com boom and bust is very vivid to me, because I graduated from college in 1998, right? Yeah. So I was like, I was laid off. This is a great fun fact. I was laid off September 5th, 2001.
Oh, wow.
In New York. Oh, my goodness. So it was good. There are things in life way more important than my little job, right? Good reminder of that. But what a wild time in human history. Yeah. But you live through something like that, or even though the 2008, you watch the economy get overheated in a certain way, and you're going, So my best advice to people, honestly, is just be ready for a range of possible outcomes. The worst thing you can be is blindsided. And particularly if you work for one of these tech companies, one of the things that tech companies have not been great at is just framing normal jobs. They're just they don't have good muscle around, okay, this is a reasonable job for a human to do. And that's why you get these big cycles of hiring and then big cycles of laying people off. So I think we each have to take responsibility for ourselves, unfortunately, and say, okay, you know what, my job might be a little goofy, and I'm going to have my resume and my LinkedIn ready.
Yeah. I think if I had massive employees like I used to have, 1,000 employees, we would have a 4-day work week for my employees. And I would emphasize that, look, Fridays, downtime, maybe we'll assign somebody, I don't know, to watch for fires on the email or something. If you tell your clients, like one of the companies I buy from is B&H Photography.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about them is they have a Jewish holiday, because I believe they're Jewish.
Yeah.
And you can't place your order for, I think it's 1 or 2 days. Like I think it's Friday or Saturday. You can't place an order.
Yeah, on the Sabbath.
Yeah. Isn't it? It doesn't have to do with, I know there's a rule in Judaism where you can't do mechanical things, or you can't do certain things on their Sabbath, I think, or on a certain day. And I've seen it because, like in Israel, they have special ways to get around it.
Well, the elevator stops on every floor, so you don't have to push the elevator button. Yeah. Some hotels in Miami have that. Actually.
Do they really? Wow.
Yeah, Fontainebleau has that. Has like a Sabbath elevator. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have this thing where there's sometimes where I need to order something, and I need camera equipment. When I need camera equipment, I need camera equipment. Like now. But I've just learned to work with it, and I appreciate what they do, and they're a good company, and if that's their religious thing, I really wish they wouldn't put me through it, but it's fine. I still do business with them, and I still work with them, but I respect that. And I think if you tell your clients that, hey, there's a 4-day work week, that's kind of what they're doing over there. There's a 4-day work week. Sorry, you're not going to be able to reach our people between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or maybe you can assign an emergency person, but usually there's no emergency that really needs to happen.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Like, so much of it's funny, I have a chapter in the book where I talk to a firefighter, an air traffic controller, and an emergency room physician. And it's interesting because in their jobs, they have real emergencies. And speaking to them, it really brought home to me in consulting, so much of what we call an emergency is just not an emergency, to your point, that most of us work in situations where genuinely nothing is urgent. And then it's actually unfair to people to whom things actually are urgent, right? You talk to people who work at the supply chain function, right? Okay, I've got tomatoes rotting out on the highway. Okay, that's an emergency. That's urgent. But their emergencies get swallowed up by all these dumb emergencies, all this false urgency in the rest of the company. The marketing, no, you don't have a marketing emergency, right? The supply chain guys have a real emergency. Calm down. And there's a lot to be said for, to your point, being like, okay, this is what's genuinely urgent. This is what's not. And we're going to just run in a sensible way that talks about the right things in the right bucket and just stop stressing everyone out.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to manage this stuff. Even ER doctors have non-emergencies.
That's what triage is for. Triage is about separating out the person who is genuinely and it's interesting because the person who's about to die, that's actually not the top of triage. That person, they actually say, okay, we're going to, if there's nothing to be done for them, they're not the most urgent case, which is a very interesting mindset. The most urgent case is someone who is very sick or hurt, but can be saved. And
that's why they always leave me to die in ER. They just put me in a gurney somewhere.
You're not going to succumb to that paper cut.
Yeah,
it's just probably not.
just check on him, see if he's still breathing. And my ex does the same thing. I used to have a buddy who had twins, and his girlfriend would take the kids. If they got a sniffle, they would be in the emergency room. And I'm like, dude, do you understand what you're doing to your insurance? Okay. You're racking up a hell of a rap sheet that they're just going to be like, we're charging you 5 times next time we renegotiate your thing. But yeah, I think it's really important. And I think we need to, the show we were talking about last week that I'm referencing is we were talking about how you need to make sure that employees have downtime, they have reset time. And frankly, since me giving up Fridays as an official work day, I am probably twice as much effective or making twice the amount of money. I've got more time and more vision, and yet I'm working less, technically, you'd think. But I'm more effective because my brain's engaged, and I'm not fried and not burnt out, and I don't know. I got enough ADHD problems as it is.
Well, but we have to take brain fatigue seriously. And if you think about union regulation, if you had a Teamster's job, they would say you can only lift X number of parcels in a day or whatever the metric is. You can only drive so many hours in a truck in a row, right? Because we acknowledge the human body kind of conks out after a while. It gets tired. But we don't do that with our brains. We don't say, okay, you can only answer 180 emails in a day. But maybe we should. It honestly, it might help. I think to your point, operating under serious brain fatigue, we're just not getting enough sleep. This is one that I'm absolutely fascinated with. But the scientists have actually proven that if you come into work on not enough sleep, it is the same as coming in drunk.
Oh, wow. I'll just start showing up drunk then.
Right. Well, at that point, just have some fun, right?
I'll just tell them I didn't get enough sleep, so I figured I might as well drink since it's the same.
But that to me is fascinating because it shows that people I'm a serious person, I'm grinding it out, I'm hustle culture, and you're showing up to work in the same condition as somebody who had 5 vodka sodas. We should all take a pause and really be thinking about these things. And to your point, think about what are the conditions under which our brains actually perform properly.
Yeah. If I don't get my 8 hours sleep or at least 6, there's murdering that's going to take place. And the judge says I can't do it anymore. So there's that. So I'm trying, Judge. I'm trying.
They've set some guardrails for you.
I'm trying, Judge. Trying everything I can, man. Anyway, but yeah, I'm more effective than I've ever been probably in my life. I think I'm just kicking ass, taking names, and all of it was just having that reset space. And so Thursday night, my brain goes, "Hey, it's Friday night, man. You can let it go, man. You can wind a little bit. It's okay, man. We got it done. A week's in the can." And then on Friday, I start to decompress. And usually I'll decompress all Fridays because I'm still in business mode. So I'm still doing a little bit emails and checking things. But then I'm also doing the visionary work for my company. Why are we doing and how are we doing it and all that sort of stuff you have to do as an innovator. And then by Saturday, when I wake up, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to have a weekend.
Yeah.
I'm decompressed. Yeah. Where before I would really decompress on Saturday. And by the time I really felt like I was having a weekend, it would be like mid-Sunday.
Yeah. And I find that with vacations when I was in corporate roles that we would be 4 or 5 days into the vacation before I was properly relaxed. And the vacation was only 8 days long or something like that. So I'm like, okay, I get 3 good vacation days where my brain is actually able to chill out and just be on a boat on the lake. Yeah. It's really, to your point, if your guard is always up and you're never relaxing, then you're not getting your right human stuff, but you're also not getting your right business stuff either. You're not having those deeper strategic insights because you're always all the time.
Yeah. Maybe I should just quit all the days and just do Monday and then
The 1 day work week. You could be a pioneer.
It's my next book will be The 1 Day Work Week, folks. Check it out. 1 day of work. How to be disaffective at work. Anyway, this is wonderful, and people should reach out to you. Give people a final pitch out to pick up your book, reach out to you on your website for your company, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I believe Effective is a book for our times. I think we are all so overloaded. I think it's a hard time to get work done, a hard time to feel good at your job, which is a feeling we all want. We all want to feel like we're good at our work. So I recommend checking out Effective. And I think for some of that deeper problem solving, Anthrom Insight is here to help.
Reach out and ask questions. It's free, and you can get to know more. Well, thank you very much, Melissa, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
This was a fun conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Order up her book wherever fine books are sold. Effective. How to do great work in a fast-changing world. You can give it to your boss for Christmas and see. Maybe they'll give you some more time off or something. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, facebook.com/Chris Voss. We didn't say that. And all those crazy places on the internet. We have too much stuff going on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.